Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down my top stacks for this week 11 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings. If you haven't seen so far, I have broken down my top plays at each position. We've dove into each and every single offensive position that we're picking for our lineup slots on this slate. All those can be found on my channel, so check those out after this one. But this video is where we're going to kind of dive in and figure out how we're going to combine all of those plays that we've gone over, figure out the top stacks, figure out the guys that I'm looking to stack up with the QBs, and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to break it down by total. Right now I have my spreadsheet sorted over here by over under the top totals of the slate at the top, and then we'll just kind of break down game by game as we go here. The very first spot is this Indianapolis Colts Green Bay Packers game, and it all starts with Aaron Rodgers, of course. Aaron Rodgers and this Packers offense, if I'm stacking them up, which I do think is definitely viable, it all starts with Aaron Rodgers at the $7K price tag. Looking at his game logs and how he's performed recently, you can see 29 points last week against Jacksonville, 31 the week before, 23, 27 the last 4 weeks. Definitely keep rolling and looking good out there. And then, of course, it all starts with his number one target in Davante Adams, the number one fantasy player, arguably, right now. And I mean, there's not really much of an argument to be made. Because 47, 30, 36, and 19 DK points. Guys at target share beast. 12 targets, 11 targets, 16 targets, 10 targets, double-digit targets for 5 weeks in a row now. Rodgers' number one weapon, and definitely the guy that I'm looking to stack with Rodgers. Definitely starting with Davante Adams, not even a question. If I'm stacking this team up. And then if I'm looking to stack up anyone else with Rodgers, which of course, typically I am trying to stack up, 2 to 3 options. You could go to the running back and Aaron Jones if you're looking to get a little bit sneaky. However, I wasn't really impressed with Aaron Jones' snap count the last few weeks. There seems to be a willingness to use Jamal Williams out of the backfield as the receiving back, and it's kind of cutting into Aaron Jones' work share, and I'm not really sure that I'm very fond of that as far as targeting Jones. 4 targets, 6 targets, and 5 targets the last 3 weeks for Jamal Williams. They're using him on passing downs for the running back position. So I'm not going to try to predict that and get cute, really, honestly. My next guy that I would be playing would be MVS. Valdes-Scantling is a guy that is a deep threat. He's kind of an all-or-nothing play, and he really was missing out on the big games for a while. Kind of a guy that was letting us down consistently. Week 3, 1, 8, 6, 0.9, 3.3. But then we've seen him pop off the last 2 weeks. He scored 2 touchdowns against San Francisco, and then 1 touchdown last time out against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 10 with that 78-yard catch for a touchdown. But that's what he brings. He's a deep threat. He's an all-or-nothing guy. He's either going to catch that deep threat, that deep bomb, and give you the fancy points that way, or he's going to kind of strike out for you. But I mean, he's the second guy that I'm looking to stack up with Rodgers if I'm not going to Davante Adams. As far as the other side of this game, I mean, I really don't have a lot of interest in these higher total games as far as the passing game is concerned, ironically. So I'm kind of going to skip over the Baltimore-Tennessee game. The next game that I have interest in is this New Orleans Saints and Atlanta Falcons game. Drew Brees is going to be out with that multiple broken ribs and collapsing lung. But we do have Matt Ryan and on the other side of the game, Taysom Hill at this 4.8 price tag on DraftKings this week. That's going to provide us with value. And I do have a ton of interest in stacking up both of these teams. My projection model right now has this game moving very quickly, 68 projected snaps for both of these offenses. I love that. That's really standing on my sheet. That's like 4 more snaps than the highest total on the slate in the Green Bay and Indianapolis Colts game. So I'm going to hop all over that. 22.75 implied total for Matt Ryan's squad, and then a 26.25 implied total on the other side. So we'll start with Matt Ryan. As far as who I'm looking to stack him up with this week, it all starts with Julio Jones, of course, on the outside, the number one threat in this offense. He comes in at 7.5 this week on DraftKings. I discussed his red zone share this year, discussed his overall target share, and I definitely have a ton of interest in him in this matchup. 17, 23, 16 DK points the last 3 times out after that 36 spot in Week 6 against Minnesota. And as I mentioned, with this high pace and his target share, I just think that we can see that type of ceiling game out of him again. Definitely have interest in him this week. You can't rule out Calvin Ridley, of course. He got the go to play this week. He's cleared. Good to go. Looking at his target share, 4, 7, 7, 10 targets. So he's on the other side of the ball, a deep threat. He's only 7K compared to what we were paying for him at 7, 8 3 weeks ago. He's been slowly dropping in price, which I don't mind at all, because this is a great spot. And of course, I would rather get him at a cheaper price tag. So I like Calvin Ridley, stacking them up with Matt Ryan. Those are the first two guys that I'm looking to include in my stacks there. And then don't forget about Hayden Hurst, the tight end position, because I do think that he is definitely a viable play this week. 8 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets the last 4 weeks. Guy that's definitely involved in the offense enough to go ahead and stack him up with Matt Ryan. And then on the other side of the ball, this week it's going to be Taysom Hill coming in and filling in for the injured Drew Brees. Comes in at a 4.8 price tag. A guy that can definitely run on the ground, a guy that can get it done through the air, just a very athletic athlete, and it'll be interesting to see how he performs this week. But I can tell you one thing, that he has a great matchup against these Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have really been struggling defending opposing quarterbacks. You could go ahead and throw Alvin Kamara in with your stacks because of his role as a receiver in this offense. 8 targets, 6 targets, 13 targets, 8 targets. Usually I'm not looking to stack up my quarterback with running back, but in this particular case, I wouldn't be surprised if they're running some option plays. I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of being a little bit on the trickery side as far as play action and dump down passes to Kamara with the legs that Hill provides. And then, of course, Michael Thomas on the outside is a guy that I'm looking to go to. He's my first guy that I'm stacking it up with. 9K in his week 1 appearance. He came back and he was only 6'9", and that got up to 7'4". He's dudded the last 2 weeks, really, as far as his talent's concerned, and now he's at 7'3". I think we could see the first big game on the year out of Michael Thomas. He hasn't gotten up there in the 20 points range, and I think he can very easily do so in this matchup with the Falcons and the bad coverage that they have been providing to opposing teams. And then do not forget about Jared Cook, the tight end. I think he's the next guy you're looking to stack up. He's a very athletic guy that can get down the field. He has a lot of upside for a tight end. You're always looking for those tight ends that get down the field. Last week he put up a dud against San Fran, but the 3 weeks before, kind of 2 duds. I don't know, 4 points isn't going to get it done, but 16 points, 12 points, and the target share is there. 4 targets, 7 targets. The last 2 weeks it's gone down. I think we can see that bump back up, and he's seen his price drop down to 4.1 compared to 4.6, 4.8 that we were paying. So we can jump on that and capitalize on the drop in price there. So definitely have interest in stacking up that game. That's definitely one of my favorite ones on the week. Moving further along to this Dallas-Minnesota game. This is a spot that I'll have interest in this week with a 48.5 point total. I got 65 projected snaps for both sides as far as the offenses are concerned. And when looking at who we're looking to stack up in this one, all starts with the QBs, of course, in Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton. So those are the 2 guys that you got to be looking to play as far as the QBs are concerned. We'll cover the Cowboys first. And Andy Dalton returning now, I do think gives a big bump to this Dallas Cowboys offense. A guy that's a little bit more of a veteran QB back there instead of these 4th-string QBs that we've been seeing week in and week out. And who I'm looking to stack up with him this week. It all starts with Amari Cooper on the outside. He's only 5'4", which I really like. Amari Cooper, a very talented wide receiver that's been around for a while now. And I think that due to his recent lack in performance and the lack of QB talent, we've seen a major price drop on him, and we can take advantage of that this week because he's getting Andy Dalton back. He's getting a little bit more of a talented guy, and he's a guy that we were paying 7.4 for at one point in the season. Now he's all the way down to 5.4. I think that's really cheap and a great place to start in this Dallas Cowboys stack. CeeDee Lamb's the next guy that you're looking to target. He's been a breakout guy this year, absolutely balling all season long. 7 targets, 5 targets. He's been getting in the end zone, 1 touchdown last week. And then, of course, we had that little bit of a dip, but I think that's just really revolving around the lack of talent at the QB position after the multiple injuries to the Dallas QBs. 13, 23, 25, 20 the weeks before. Definitely a guy that I am looking to stack up if I'm targeting this Cowboys offense, which I do think is a great idea this week with the news of Andy Dalton returning. And then on the other side, you can definitely play Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. This Dallas secondary has been less than impressive all season long. Kirk Cousins hasn't really had a breakout game in a while outside of that game against Atlanta, who provides a similar good matchup. So I think he can get back on track with a similar performance to that 29 spot that we saw in Week 6 here in this matchup. And I definitely have interest in him. It all starts with Adam Thielen on the outside. Of course, number 1 target in this offense. He had 20 DK points last time out. He's a target share B, 7, 5, 4, 5. That's kind of down, honestly, from what we've seen before, though. 10 and 3, 13, So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be back up in that 10-13 range. And I love Jefferson this week. Justin Jefferson is too cheap in my opinion. I think this is a great spot for him to go out there and have a big game. Comes in at 6K on DraftKings. My model is really liking Jefferson this week as far as my projections. So yeah, have a ton of interest in Justin Jefferson. The values there, the projections there, all that fun stuff that I look at in my projections week in and week out. And he's one of my top options on the slate. And then as far as the tight end position is concerned, I don't really know if I'm looking to go there. If I'm picking one guy, it's probably Kyle Rudolph. But it's not like he's been really doing anything too crazy, but he has had 4 targets and 5 targets the last 2 weeks. So we might see his role in the offense increasing as we speak. So I think that game's definitely one that's interesting. So I definitely have interest in some of those guys. Moving further along, this Philly Cleveland game, I do think that we can go ahead and stack up the Philadelphia Eagles in this one, just due to because their injuries and such. I do think that the target share is pretty condensed. And then on the other side, it's kind of the same thing, honestly, because no more OBJ. Landry's going to get a lot more opportunities. So we can start with them. Baker Mayfield taking on the Philly secondary. Has put up 2 duds in a row now, 5 and 7 DK points. Really bad after that 30 spot against Cincy. But that might help us with some ownership here, and we can go ahead and stack him up. It all starts with Landry. Saw 5 targets last week, 11 targets the week before. Hasn't really been putting up points, of course, because the offense has really been struggling, but he's the first guy I'd be starting with. And then don't forget about the tight end and Austin Hooper. The Eagles have really struggled against the tight end position this year, giving up a lot of DK points, and I think the Austin Hooper's in a great spot here to get back on track after seeing 7, 10 targets in weeks 4 and 5, and then 6 targets in week 6. He only saw 2 last week. I think that was a bit of an outlier, and I think he can get back on track in this one. So I definitely have interest in that side of the ball. And those are the guys that I'm looking to stack up. And then on the other side of the ball, if I'm playing Carson Wentz, I think we know who to stack him up with. Similar to Baker the last 2 weeks, he hasn't been doing anything. He's really been struggling, but we've seen a price drop on him. Similar to Baker Mayfield, who's 5-4 now after being up near 6K. So both of these guys have seen their price drop because of recent struggles. And now might be the time to hop on them. It all starts with Travis Fulgham at 5-6. He's another guy that's seen his price drop after being at 6-4 last week. It dropped down to 5-6, and he's been seeing lots of targets in this offense. 5 targets last week, 7 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets. I think he's going to continue to be involved. Jalen Reagor's the next guy I would be wanting to target. Another guy that I think is underpriced. He's only 4-3. I think he's going to see a big price increase here soon. I think he's going to have a big game, and that's going to cause his price to go up. And I think it could be in this one. 7 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets. Those are only week 1 and 2, though. Weeks 8 and 10, we've seen him get back on track and get a large volume increase. So I definitely have interest in those guys. And then you can definitely play the tight end and Dallas Goedert because there's no Zach Ertz. So Goedert's going to be taking over the majority of the targets in this one. And I think he's going to be seeing end zone work. And then the Eagles do love to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I mean, they love to just have the tight end out there, and Goddard's going to be out there for a lot of snaps. So I have interest in both sides of that game. This next one I'm really excited about. It doesn't seem to be getting a lot of ownership, and I have this game projected for a great pace. 68 projected snaps for both sides and both of these offenses. This Cincinnati-Washington game is one that I expect myself to be a lot over the field on. You know, playing a lot of these weapons in comparison to the rest of the field in these tournaments. It all starts with Joe Burrow. I think that he's priced greatly on DraftKings this week at only 5.5. I think he can blow away this price tag and put up a big game. Last time he was priced at 5.5, he put up 38 DK points. He's had 18 after and 12 the week following that, which has caused his price tag, which rose all the way up to 6.2 to drop back down to 5.5. And I think it's a great time to drop on that, similar to these other spots that we talked about with struggles like a Baker Mayfield and a Carson Wentz. And then you can play Alex Smith on the other side, who I do think is a little bit capped in his upside just strictly because Alex Smith doesn't really throw the ball down the field too much. But it's really about the price tag at 5.3. I think in this matchup he can get to where he needs to. Both of these guys grade out pretty well in my projections with the pace and the projected amount of snaps in this game. If I'm looking to stack up the Washington side of the ball, it all starts with Terry McLaurin. I definitely like him this week. out of 6 to 9. Price tag, he's seen 9 targets, 8 targets, 11 targets, 12 targets. Very involved in this offense, very involved in the red zone, very involved on deeper plays, involved in everything. And I just love Terry McLaurin's upside in this matchup and his involvement in the offense overall. Gone over that earlier in the week. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd on the Bengals side are the guys that I'm looking to stack up with Burrow. 7 receptions last week, 26 DK points. He got in the end zone, 9 targets, 5 targets, 8 targets. T. Higgins seeing a ton of work in this offense. I definitely like him this week. I definitely like Tyler Boyd. Similar workload, similar price tag. 8 targets, 7 targets. That's 13 targets, 8 targets. Definitely being involved in the offense. And he didn't even get in the end zone last week, and he put up 10 DK points. I mean, just the target share and the price drop. I mean, the price is just dropping. I think it has to do with the matchup against Washington. Washington has been, one of the top secondaries in the league, but with the pace of this game and the Vegas line, I'm expecting these teams to put up, pretty relative points to the rest of the slate. I mean, when you're looking at the over-unders, there's not really anything that's separated by too many points. There's not like a huge total on this slate, and I think we could take advantage of a game that's going under-owned. And then don't forget about Logan Thomas, because I definitely have interest in Logan Thomas this week. At his price tag, he grades out great in my projections. 5 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 13, 16, 10 DK points, double-digit DK points in 4 of his last 5. And once again, a guy probably that won't get too much attention in ownership. So that game definitely one I want to speak on because I do have some interest in it. And then moving further along, the last spot that I would want to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers taking on, 2 more spots, sorry, not the last spot, because I definitely have interest in the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Can't forget about them because they're in a great spot. So the Chargers, I want to start with them. Justin Herbert, he's all over the news this week for a terrible haircut, but that's not why we're going to discuss him, because we have interest in playing him this week. No matter what he looks like, I guess he cut the flow and it looks a little rough around the edges, but I think he can put up some good DK points in this spot, in this matchup. His team currently has a 28 implied total, 9.5 point spread, expected to get up big in this one. And it all starts with Keenan Allen, the guy that I'm looking to stack him up with. Keenan Allen, an absolute target share beast. Looking at his numbers throughout the year: 7, 11, 12, 13 targets the last 4 weeks, 25, 21, 28 DK points. He had a little bit of a dud last week against Miami with only 12.9. But with the implied total and the Jets defense, I think he's in a great spot to get back on track here. And then, of course, you can always play Mike Williams on the other side of the ball, a guy that provides upside every single week. Kind of a boom or bust option, but the target share has been there. 8 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets. I definitely like him on the other side. And I definitely do like Hunter Henry as well. If I'm stacking up this team, don't forget about him because he's had a very good target share in the offense. 7, 4, 7, 6 targets. That is great for a tight end. Definitely being involved, and I definitely have interest in him when I'm looking to stack up this Chargers team. Get those 3 guys in your stacks along with Herbert. Love that. And lastly, don't forget about these Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely in a good spot. They also have a 28 implied team total, and their target share has been very condensed, very predictable where the ball's going, and you know who you want to play. It all starts with these 3 wide receivers on the outside: Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. So we'll break them down one by one. Juju, look at his target share: 13, 7, 8, 14 targets. Love to see it. 17, 13, 21, 22 DK points. Very involved in the offense. Chase Claypool. And Juju is a guy that, before we move on, he's been getting extreme red zone targets. I went over that in my wide receiver video earlier in the week. If you're looking to get some more in-depth analysis, don't forget to check out my position-by-position videos that I've released. Check out the channel. You can check it out by looking at that info card at the top of the screen, a little eye. Click on that. You'll see the channel. You can click the channel down below me. KJK DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports Content. Check out all that stuff because I've broken it down. But Juju has been getting a large target share in the red zone, so don't forget that. Chase Claypool, 6-1. Also, lots of targets: 10 targets, 13 targets, 9 targets the last 3 weeks, 14, 15, 21 DK points. Love to see that. And it doesn't stop there because we do have Deontay Johnson as well. 10 targets, 11 targets the last 2 weeks. Ben Roethlisberger has just been letting the ball fly to these 3 guys. And then don't forget about the tight end as well, because Eric Ebron's in a great position as well, taking on these Jacksonville Jaguars. 5 points last week. He was a little bit of letdown. I was high on him last week too. Didn't quite get the job done for us there. But looking at how he's fared, he has had 11, 8, 14, 11 DK points in 3 of his last 4 weeks. He has put up double digits, and then the target share 8, 5, 6, 6. Great for a tight end. Very involved in the offense. And of course, it all starts with Big Ben. He's the one that's slinging the pigskin, getting these guys involved, and I definitely have interest in him. 28, 32 DK points the last 2 weeks. He's seen his price go up, but I think he's worth it in this matchup. Very large total for this Pittsburgh Steelers game, and an absolute great stack on this Week 11 NFL DFS slate. So, love all of those stacks. Make sure that you're narrowing down your player pool. As far as tournament strategy is concerned, guys, always remember, as far as I'm concerned, the data and everything, it backs up playing a QB and playing 2 of his catching targets and then running it back with someone on the other end. I do always promote game stacking. So, as we're breaking down these stacks, the guys we've discussed, try to pick someone on the other end to run it back with. So, example, if I'm playing this Atlanta Falcons New Orleans game and I'm stacking up Matt Ryan with 2 of his weapons, I'm stacking up Matt Ryan with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, let's say. I run that back with Michael Thomas. I feel good about it. Is that possible salary-wise? I don't know. You're going to have to kind of figure that out on your own. Maybe you want to throw in a Taysom Hill so that you can fit in those 3 elite wide receivers, because Taysom Hill does provide us with some great value this week. That's a little bit of an example, a little bit of game theory, a little bit of advice. Take it for what it's worth. That's what I would be doing in these tournaments. It's proven through the data, the guys that are winning these big prizes and taking down these tournaments with thousands of people, the Millie Maker, all these big tournaments, that's what they do. You stack up a QB with multiple weapons. You stack up the other side with a 1 run back option because, let's say Herbert goes out there and throws 2 touchdowns to Keenan Allen, gets up big in the game. On the other side, there's got to be one guy on the Jets that's going to put up big numbers in trash time, trying to get back in the game, unless they're just getting absolutely routed and they don't put up any points. So, yeah, that is my spiel on that. Just want to leave you with some good advice before we wrap things up here. And those are my top stacks for this Week 11 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos that I release. And then do not forget, I do have an NFL DFS package over there on Patreon where you can get access to all of my sheets, some of the stuff that I referenced, but you'll get the entire thing, all the projections, all the stuff, some of the stuff you can't see during the video. If interested, go ahead and check that out. Link below in the description. Been working hard on all that stuff. I appreciate you guys tuning in to my top stacks video. I wish you all the best of luck this week.